People are in a room deciding we're not going to let this get out. Let's keep this alone. Don't go to the press, and that's scary.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another opportunity to talk about Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm here with Brianna Ludwig. Foul Ball Safety Now Talks is a discussion that started about 4 months ago. I started Foul Ball Safety Now about 6 years ago, which is a campaign to pay attention to issues that have been kind of flying right under the radar. All of us who are baseball fans, or all of us who know the game of baseball, may not know a lot of the information we've accumulated over 6 years, and our idea is to put it out there so people can see it for themselves and understand that my instincts are to put this information in front of everyone so they could then determine how they wanna get involved, what they wanna say about it. We believe most baseball fans had no idea that this was part of the daily climate of regular games, foul balls concerns. So that's what we do at Foul Ball Safety Now. Working with an investigative reporter for 6 years by the name of Brendan, we've compiled and interviewed so much research and discussion that eventually all of this stuff will be weaved and packaged into reading materials and maybe documentaries and reports and essays. People are jumping in, including baseball players themselves. We've interviewed more than baseball 80 people, and I'd say about 30 of those people were baseball players who are beginning to tell us the inner turmoil of what a baseball player feels when they go to work, when they go to play their game, whether they're student athletes or professional athletes. So that's very interesting, and I think people should learn about that. We've interviewed a lot of the victims, including a gentleman whose wife died at the Dodger game back in 2018. Irwin, unfortunately, she was sitting in a low section and she got struck, and a few days later, unfortunately, she passed. Also, another boy died at Dodger Stadium back in 1970. It's not just about Dodger Stadium, it's about all professional ballparks, now even college ballparks, because college players are sharing with us. So, some news is that there was a new article. If people see Foul Ball Safety Now, they can go to the Queens College investigation, and 4 letters were written to the Queens College administration starting back in May because a student athlete had contacted us who was nervous about the concern of maybe hurting somebody because their games or their practices, balls are leaving the field. And unfortunately, there's a public school right next door, and these student athletes are genuinely concerned that they could hit or hurt somebody seriously. Similar to like Modesto, California, you'll also see on the website Foul Ball Safety Now, a known Modesto wrote 3 letters to the Modesto newspaper. A woman, unfortunately, was outside the ballpark back in summer of 2023, and a lawyer firm found us in the summer of 2025, in the spring of 2025, and they had a case coming up, and we helped them for a little while, and we learned that case was settled. And why for 2 years were people walking around Modesto may still not know about the incident of the woman who was just standing outside the ballpark and got hit with a ball. It may not be uncommon that maybe during a 3-hour period before a game and during a game, there could be 10 or 15 balls that rain outside on a fly, and it could hit the pavement or hit the window or hit the person like it did. Yes, we have a new article at the Queens College Investigation tab, just came out less than a week ago, so I want everyone to check it out, and the Queens College newspaper reporter wrote a nice article. He did a nice attempt at, putting this issue out there, so we appreciate that. And maybe that situation is at 500 colleges and maybe all the 169 professional ballparks other than MLB, where balls can come outside because many of these ballparks have lower sides. So we're excited to bring on our guest. We have a lot of news, so please go to Foul Ball Safety Now, and you'll see a lot of things that we've covered in the last few months. So, Brianna, how are you today?
Doing good, doing good. Happy to be here. Excited for you to share your past 6 years with our guest today. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on David Morse. He is a market researcher and accomplished author. Welcome, David.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Jordan.
Hi, David. Really, really appreciate you being here today. We are anticipating a great conversation, and we look forward to questions. Maybe we heard some of them, maybe we had not, but take the reins. You're our guest host for the day. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to thank you for the work that you've been doing. This is something I don't think I'm the only person that just never thought about this. I think and I say this as not only as a market researcher and as an author, but a long time Boston Red Sox fan. I don't know how many times I've been to Fenway Park. My perspective as a Red Sox fan, as a Major
Yes.
League Baseball fan, is that when I walk into the ballpark, that I'm going to be covered, that I'm going to be safe. And I know that there's danger. We all know that there are fly balls coming at us, but I think we all kind of assume that if we were to get injured by a baseball, that we'd
Mhm,
be covered, that the team would take care of us, that the
mhm,
ballpark's insurance would cover us. I would be so interested in knowing, Jordan,
mhm,
what percentage of people feel the way that I do, that
mhm,
just kind of assume, despite what might be written on the fine
mhm,
print of the
mhm.
ticket or might
Yeah.
be understood by the legality of the situation. And the other thing is,
Yes.
I think there's some kind of cover up going on. It seems because
Mhm,
why does this not make headlines? Why do I not know as a
mm,
news watcher and
right.
and blog reader that yeah, until I read your stuff that people are
Sure.
dying, that children, that older people, that human beings are getting hit in the
Yeah.
face and the
Yeah.
head with a baseball and they're getting really injured. We should
Right.
be talking about this. This
Right.
shouldn't be, in my experience, Jordan, you're the only
Yes.
one taking this on. And I think
Yeah.
it's crazy.
No, it's definitely worthy of all of our time, and that's what these discussions will produce, is people are getting an epiphany of awareness, and then from there, everything is possible, so we're excited that these conversations are gonna take place and see the light of day. Your thoughts about coming to the game thinking that you may be potentially hurt and you would be covered, that's an interesting sentiment. I'm thinking maybe the majority of people are coming to the game not really thinking they would be seriously injured. You may be more in tune to to what a line drive can do just from your own experience watching baseball or playing baseball. But I think a large portion of the fans, I don't really want to break it down in percentages, but certainly double digits. To be conservative, I would say, let's say it was only 25% of fans that really had no idea. They just said, "Bring the cotton candy on." How many my child could have 3 snacks, and they can sit anywhere, they could run anywhere, they could play anywhere. And if that was the case, of course, that would be too many people that were uninformed. So, I'm gonna say conservatively, 25% of the people clearly came to the game never ever thinking that a foul ball could do this or do that. Now, you may be in the percentage of another group of people that are like, okay, man, a ball may come at us. And, worst case scenario, if I get hit or if I lose my teeth, like, somebody who we interviewed, unfortunately, she had her jaw wired shut for a few months. Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes the insult is worse than the injury. I don't wanna mention the professional team right now, but they kinda said to her, "Save the bills. Just give us all the bills, and when you have them all, let us know, and we'll pay you back." And they ghosted her, like, after 6 months. She had a jaw wired shut for 2 months. I mean, how horrible is that? So maybe that it was 15, $20,000 and they just didn't give her any money. She had no idea. I would definitely say she was one of the 25 percenters who was just going down to her seat during batting practice. People are hurt up in the concourses waiting to buy a snack. We interviewed a little girl from New Jersey who was 10 at the time. She wrote a paper for us, not for us, but based on her discussions with us. She was very kind as a 17-year-old to interview with us before she had gone to college, and she told us later that she wrote a paper about her experience. I think it kinda coincided with about the time we met her that she wrote her paper. Fortunately, she was unscathed, when it came to long-term injuries. But then there was another little girl who was 4 years old that we interviewed. Unfortunately, she's now a teenager and she's having issues. Her father tells me that she forgets things, and you know, her head injury was her first game as a 4-year-old. These families had no idea, and 25%, I believe it's north of that, but let's just say, let's go conservative 25%, David, had no idea they were gonna have any risk at all. Mhm.
And I think listening to you that I'm
Yeah.
probably in the minority in the sense
Uh-huh.
that I'm the kid, I'm the kid that grew up an hour from Boston. My father worked in Boston. I was about 15 years old. He'd take
Right.
me into Boston. I would go to Fenway Park with my baseball glove, sitting
Right.
in left field, waiting for a foul ball. So I'm
I
not
know.
typical. I'm not the person going there with my family for a family event expecting a fun family event, a safe night out. I'm
Right.
not I'm hoping for the foul ball, so I
Got it,
I
got
think
it.
that,
I got it.
you're probably right.
You came with the anticipation, but obviously a glove is a helper. I would think that even the kids that do have gloves, they're not ready to defend themselves from a 100-mile-an-hour ball. They're really there to catch a toss or a pop. They're not really there to defend themselves from a 100-mile-an-hour line drive. Those hooking line drives going at 100 just past end of dugout, a glove, it may deflect off your glove and may have saved you, but it's still gonna hurt the person next to you and do
And you
serious damage. They're not gonna
talk
catch
about
the ball.
and talk about groups of people, and not only am I
Yeah.
among the ones that have shown up with a glove, but I'm one of the uncoordinated kids thinking, "Am I even gonna be able to catch the damn thing? It's probably gonna still hit me in the head." So I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it, you know?
Yeah. No,
I'm not
that's
thinking about
fair.
compensation, I'm just thinking, "What am I gonna do?" But
That's
I'm thinking
fair.
that most people assume that they're safe.
Right.
That they're covered. And the other thing that really blew me
Yes.
away, that
What's that?
people are getting hit by baseballs outside of the park and they're not
Yeah.
taken care of. I mean, like,
Right.
walking through, Kenmore Square in Boston, which I've done
Yeah.
1,000 times by the
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
monster wall,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you assume that the city's gonna take care of you, that the ballpark's gonna take you. You don't
Yeah.
assume that the risk of getting hit by a baseball and dying is
Sure.
there.
Sure. Yeah, good point about the Fenway experience, and I would think, people who are going to supermarkets or people who are walking their shopping carts are not gonna walk down that avenue during the game day. There's probably a ton of teenagers out there with gloves. Okay, that's one thing. What about the 169 other professional parks? Potentially, who knows how many hundreds of college ballparks where balls are flying over the sides, like in Queens College, and even my own experience 20 years ago when I was in Brooklyn Cyclones, Coney Island, Surf Avenue, part of my experience of growing up and also hanging out with family, we were at a game outside the ballpark, young and old. Ball comes over the side, hits a young person we were with right in the forearm. No notice, right on the fly. Could have been serious. It could have been his face, but it was his forearm, left a big mark. He didn't have to go to first aid, but it left a big mark on his arm, and that was a memorable experience. Why are 10 or 15 balls raining outside on sides? And let alone when you said covered, how about, are you covered? Will they pay your bills? How about prevention? And you know what? In most cases, people will have to find an attorney, and sometimes attorneys aren't interested because of the baseball rule, the big elephant in the room. The baseball rule in professional baseball, it's enabled more or less MLB to carry on business as usual because they know if they hurt somebody inside or outside, most states, it's gonna be hard to find a lawyer, and cases will never get to court. So, I think people aren't worried about whether they're covered or not. The first thing they're worried about is that they don't get hit. I think if this information was exchanged with the fans year after year after year, this is what happened from the previous year, and this is what we expect for the coming year. I think if that memo, if that 1 or 2 pager was released, I think agencies long ago would have reacted and said things like, "This can't be business as usual. Certain guidelines need to be adhered to." They would step up. And certainly fans would be so much more informed about before they get to the game, do they really want to go to the game? And where would they sit? And who said we should sit there? And who endorsed that? Unfortunately, David, the bottom line is nobody can tell you anywhere in the ballpark that is good for kids until it's finally presented to you that your child could sit there, then you're dealing with an ambiguous situation.
There's definitely this air of romanticism and mystique around the foul ball experience that the MLB has cultivated, this
Yes.
culture of everyone wanting to catch a foul ball. And, when the dad catches the ball with his beer and his baby, it's blasted and glorified on social media. And no one is discussing, "Hey, wait a minute. Why was that child in the line of fire? Wait, is that was yeah, he caught the ball, but that was actually really close, and he had a baby." You know what I mean?
And baseball has so captured the ethos of what it means to be American that it's like we forget about we don't even criticize it. We don't even think about it. Of course, we're fall balls come out into the stands. That you've maybe realized that, hey, players warn their families. They tell their families where to sit, right? The owners know what's going on. They know that people are getting killed, people are getting injured, and yet it doesn't get talked about other than, like, the work that you guys are doing. Why is that? Why are not more people why is not the MLB talking about this?
Yeah, I think we have 2 conversation starters from the last few months, which are gonna be very important as we speak today. So there were 2 incidences. It was Seattle, which is up on the website of Foul Ball Safety Now. You can see the T-Mobile tab. It was the playoffs. It was Detroit, Seattle. Jorge Polanco had a great game. He just hit 2 home runs. He comes up at bat again. Lot of excitement because it's a playoff game and it's late in the game. He breaks his bat and he gets an infield single. So that's typical broken bat. But what we all did not see was the broken bat and where it flew. And
Yes.
fortunately for us at Foul Ball Safety Now, the TV actually showed 5 minutes later the broken bat coming over the netting like a boomerang that could
Oh,
potentially pierce somebody's heart. They showed that going into replay, almost like that was the cherry on top of all the excitement because they were doing a pitching change and there were runners on base, like everything was happening, including a broken bat coming into the seats like a spear that could pierce your heart. And then we hear the announcer say, well, this was 5 minutes after on replay, he integrated a comment saying, "Yikes, look out." So nobody on social media reacted to it. Why is this happening right under our nose? Even video of a bat coming in like a boomerang and hearing an announcer saying, "Yikes, look out." And everyone can see that video at Foul Ball Safety Now. That's one example. And then the second example is for a great conversation starter right now is the Shohei Ohtani experience during the
yeah.
World Series. It was game 1 or game 2. We call it Shohei Ohtani vulnerability at the website. He hit a line drive down the line. He reacted like he just hurt somebody or potentially decapitated someone. So for a moment, you saw the humanity in Shohei Ohtani. He cringed. He had a cringeworthy moment. You hear the announcer say something sarcastic like, Shohei sends his apologies down the lines to anyone he may have scared. So for a moment, you saw that baseball players who've been hitting line drives towards human beings, yes, they react for a split second, but then they compose themselves very soon after. They get right back to their job. Coincidentally, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run right afterwards in the same at bat. Crazy how's that? So there was no hangover there. You can see the video. It looked like he really did some damage, or he could have done some damage. But there's also a statement here that 20-year-olds who are Queens College are searching for what's right and wrong, and they're contacting me. They don't want to hit people. They're searching for right and wrong. They wanna play the game free and clear. Maybe guys like Shohei Ohtani have been doing this for so long, near misses is part of the workplace environment, and they've kind of thrown in the towel instead of addressing solutions. So I think that's important, and I think we're gonna have a great discussion on this, in we're in the middle of that now with people and you and everyone. So we wanted to put out those 2 examples to you.
The look on their face is the same look that would be on my face. We're all humans, and
Right.
it's violence. It's a horrible thing, and, we just turn the other way, and it's
Yeah.
not right. You would I mean, it reminds me of cigarettes. For the longest time, it's like they knew
Uh-huh.
that cigarettes cause cancer, that tobacco smoking, but what was the gap until they finally said, "Warning," you know,
Right,
"Cigarette
right,
smoking causes hazardous health." Why don't they tell us, "Warning,"
right.
there is danger in being in the stands, and
Sure,
then they prohibited, they took action. They prohibited television advertising and traditional media advertising,
sure,
or at least television of tobacco. Why doesn't the MLB
sure.
take action? Why is there this resistance to insulate the infield or beyond the infield? Why would 'cause it's gonna cost money? What is the resistance? It seems to me that this is a no-brainer that you guys are fighting. It's like you've
We
discovered
appreciate
something,
that.
that you've discovered something that had needed to be revealed, and it has been revealed, and
Mhm,
yet it's like they're, I don't know, maybe not a cover-up yet, but it feels like one, It just got
mhm,
that feel like the
mhm.
MLB should be talking about this. It would be
Yeah,
in interest to talk about this, I would think, I mean,
yeah.
because I think if people were made aware, if
Well,
more people were made aware of this issue, they would feel they'd be up in arms as I am. Because I wasn't up in arms
good,
until I found your website, and now I'm up
good.
in
We
arms
appreciate that.
'cause
We appreciate that.
I never thought about it.
It's
I
people need to know what they should expect when they get to the game. That's fair. People should know what they should expect when they get to the parking lot. That's fair. People should expect what to get from the game before going to the game so they can get enough information prior. So Brianna, who's a mother of a baby, and others know exactly what's in store. And if baseball today can't guarantee that safe experience for Brianna and other mothers, please tell us. I think history's
Yeah.
going to reveal that's been the case, that this information was not presented honestly, that if it had been, that means that agencies probably would have responded years and years ago, certainly after a 14-year-old boy died at Dodger Stadium. Where was the conversation before the 1971 season about why didn't they just go straight up to the season ticket holders in those sections saying to them what happened, whether they knew about it or not, and talk about it? Why was it 45 years after Allen unfortunately got hit and died till there were nets above the dugouts? Not even in Peoria, Illinois, up until the end of 2024, there were no netting above the dugout. That's why I had gone to court in Illinois. So people can go to Foul Ball Safety Now and see about a lawsuit that I had going in Illinois, and, I've been consulting with lawyers because it's important, and I just wanna make sure we put this conversation out the right way, that we're not opening up our own can of worms of of saying the wrong thing, so we're just trying to consult with the right people, and I would go to court again if it meant, moving the needle faster. So people can study the Peoria experience at Foul Ball Safety Now and learn about. We went a few rounds in court. We were in court for about a year. There was a woman who was seriously struck by a foul ball about a decade earlier. Fortunately, she didn't have any long-term issues, but she agreed to be our plaintiff, and we incorporated a few interesting elements into the case that gave us a few rounds of life in court, and people can read all about it. We had an article in the St. Louis Dispatch, so that was nice.
You know,
So
I think of the airline industry that you get in an airplane and there's danger, you know it, but it gets talked about. They tell you what to do if there might be a sudden drop in altitude. If that's the case, put on your air mask because they tell you exactly what to do. In 1970s, you went back there. I'll go back there. I was around then. Hijacking was a big thing. So airports implemented security. That's why we go through this complicated check-in now because they discovered danger and they took action to fix it. Just like it's dangerous to be in an airplane, they don't ignore the fact that you might need an air mask. They tell you what to do. They give you specific examples. Now compare that to baseball where it just gets ignored. We don't talk about it, you know?
Certainly before the game, before we all arrive, was the time to finally communicate exactly what was happening once we got to the grounds and what we got to the game. That has never happened as far as I know. Brianna?
no, I was just gonna touch on the fact that the MLB is not required to report fan injuries, which is kinda crazy to me, you know? Linda Goldblum, the woman who died at Dodger Stadium, she was dead for 5 months before there was any reporting,
Oh
and
my
when it finally
God.
came, it actually came from her family personally reaching out to ESPN. So for 5 months, people, even children maybe, could have been sitting in her section, sitting in her seat, completely unaware. I just don't know of any other industry that allows those kind of practices. You can't legally sell a house without disclosing the previous owner died in it, but you could sell a ticket into a seat where somebody was just struck in the head and died a few days later from blunt force trauma. It's crazy.
She got struck in August of 2018, and it wasn't known till the following year. So for sure, the whole month of September, we know that it wasn't announced. So certainly a lot of people were sitting in that same row in that same seat in that same section for the whole month of September. And if they had any idea that they was just sitting in that seat or sitting in that row or sitting in that section, I think they would have raised up in arms. There could have been a baby there the following day. It's crazy. It's just not a way to run a civilized community, and we're supposed to be, civic-minded in baseball, and a lot of people just don't know business as usual has been incorrect, and we're gonna have to put that on the wall, and people, they're gonna have to determine for themselves as fans of how they wanna take in our information. I believe they'll be open-minded in taking it all in because they're not gatekeepers, they're not getting paychecks. They're gonna be like, "What did we miss? Tell us." So we're going to.
You guys are doing exactly what needs to be done. It is alerting the public. It's informing and educating the public because the business owners, the MLB, as much as I love them my whole life, the MLB knows this. It's like they're making a conscious decision. People are in a room deciding we're not going to let this get out. Let's keep this alone. And don't go to the press, and that's scary.
I'm glad you're expressing yourself. I'm a little guarded on how I express myself, but we really do appreciate your sentiments, and it's very important that we all have an opportunity because that's what's gonna happen at these town halls that we're organizing, David. Eventually, baseball players are gonna bring other baseball players to rooms. I'm speaking to some now. That's almost new news, guys, to incorporate. Indeed is a website. It's a platform people find help employees, and I'm advertising something for something like $35 an hour, wanted to organize conferences, baseball players with other baseball players. So you get these college students that are looking to make $35 an hour, and they're happy to meet you. So I've had 5 or 10 discussions with the baseball players themselves who are probably dealing with this dilemma to some degree themselves. They just wanna get the monkey off their back. They're searching for right and wrong. They wanna play the game free and clear. So I'm offering them, an opportunity. Their time is valuable, and they need to make a couple of bucks part-time. So, there may be a few conferences coming up with baseball players and their peers where they can find a safe place to speak with me and talk about their anxieties because they should. They should play the game free and clear. And it's time that we take off the shoulders of the younger professional athlete. They should not be indoctrinated into silence.
It's funny, as I criticize the MLB, I almost feel guilt, and I think that that's part of the problem, no? We feel, especially probably, I don't wanna say, especially, my age
Yeah,
people that grew up as boys that knew all the batting averages and all the statistics, we think
yeah,
they're our heroes. I think of Carl Yastrzemski, Enrico Petrus, all those Reds, they were hero I think of the MLB, I don't wanna use the word sacred, but it's,
yeah,
really on a pedestal, and,
yes,
I wonder if, we just kinda resist the idea of, why hasn't anybody gone after them before? And I just wanna say that I hope
yes.
that you guys wind up in the baseball history books, because this is big. It
Well, we
really is
appreciate that we're
big.
not going anywhere. We're breathing life into this conversation. That's all
Yes.
we can do. I've worked with an NYU adjunct. He thinks a little bit like me. He wrote a 45-minute play. He said, "Jordan, we need to write a play." Sure, Charlie. So he wrote something up. It's like a one-person play. We're taking on all the layers of the baseball industrial complex because obviously people who get paychecks, whether it be baseball writers, their job is to write about the game, whether it be broadcasters, their job is to broadcast the game. They're not going all journalism on this issue because maybe they can't, the expression, they can't bite the hand that feeds them. So Charlie is a very bright screenwriter, playwright guy. He wrote something up, and we eventually hope this draft gets further developed, and that's just another way of getting it out there. There could be an artist like John Fogerty who has a song in the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame,
center
center
field.
field. So
Yeah.
maybe John, is still, forming his opinions. We all are at whatever age we're at. He may learn about this. He may have an epiphany of awareness. Hopefully he'll rewrite center field, or maybe he'll say, better yet, maybe my song should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. I'm taking it out. That would be a conversation starter. Something for you to think about, David, beyond this call. Maybe we'll talk about that.
The next time I listen to Creedence, I'll think of that.
Or maybe we'll figure out how to get to John and talk to him about it. This is all of us. This is 80 million fans that had no idea this is happening right under their nose, and we believe most fans are gonna be very curious about the 6 years of work that I've been involved with. I've been with the journalist by the name of Brendan for 6 years. Brianna's been with me for over a year. They're dedicating their part-time work to this effort, and I really appreciate that they could be doing other things with their part-time work, but they choose to be with me, and I really appreciate that. And I am open to working with anyone who believes this is how we need to deliver the epiphany of awareness. Could be through a play, it could be through a song, it could be a rewritten song, it could be anything. So we're very excited that you're with us today, David, and happy to answer any other questions that you may have had for us. Brianna may have a question for you.
Yeah.
I do. David,
Yeah.
how powerful do you think the MLB's family-friendly branding is in shaping what fans perceive about safety at the game?
That's such a good question. I think the MLB, and I say this as a market researcher that has worked with, I don't wanna mention, not the MLB, but some of the other organizations. I mean, the MLB baseball, it is America. It is the heart of who we are. You know what I mean? What's more, it's an expression, isn't it? What's more, baseball, the apple pie, and I don't know, Chevrolet. It's as American as you can get, and I really, as I criticize right now the MLB, there's a part of me that feels guilty. There's a part of me that feels that thinks of my dad, sitting with my dad on a Saturday afternoon watching the Red Sox, or going to Fenway with him, or sitting with my grandfather watching the '67 World Series when I was a little kid. To me, baseball is sacred, and, it's hard. It's hard to criticize Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes, I try to deliver the blow softly, I'm trying to, I'm delivering the epiphany of awareness, and I have bedside manner, I hope, and I'm trying just to tell people maybe for the first time, they may come into these discussions thinking one thing, and now they're now they're coming out thinking something else. That's great, or at least the people that are hearing this for the first time. I know you just got acquainted with this conversation a few days ago, even. So
Mhm.
it's really great that you took a visit down things on our website, and we really appreciate having you today. And I think we covered a lot, and I think people just stay tuned because I will continue following the news and continue bringing this to all of us who are baseball people so they can feel fully informed and step in anytime and contact me anytime at Foul Ball Safety Now. Brianna, I want to thank you. David, terrific time today, and we'll do it again soon, everyone.